Hey folks, welcome back to another Top 10 list with yours truly, all by my lonesome, Sam Healey. Now, last week I did a Top 10 game mechanics, and in the comments I let kind of loose there that I was going to be doing a Top 10 list for each of the game mechanics that I had listed in that list. So, this is the first of those lists that I'm going to be coming out with over the next few, however many weeks it's going to take to get through them. Now, this one is a top 10 cooperative games list. I didn't originally think I was going to do this because we've already done this 2 times. Once we did it 4 years ago, where Tom Z and I conglomerated our list and just made a list of 10 games. Instead of each of us doing 10, we just gave you 10 games that are the top 10 cooperative games from us collectively. Then last year we did a remake of that list where we all did 10 games each. And so I looked at that list and I was like, wow, I think this new list is going to be a lot different from that one that was just a year ago. But there are actually 3 games that are still on my list that were actually in that original one 4 years ago. So there hasn't been a whole lot of turnover here, but there has been enough for me to personally say, yeah, I think a new list is warranted. So without further ado, these are the top 10 games of mine that are cooperative in nature. So let's get to it. So my number 10 is the same as it was actually last year, and that is Commissioned. Commissioned is a biblically themed game where each of the players are working cooperatively to spread the growth of the church throughout the biblical world at that point in time. So you're talking about Israel, Palestine, modern-day Turkey, Asia Minor, all that area, and you're trying to spread the growth of the church that way, and you're going to face trials and tribulations and certain events and all this kind of stuff that's going to hinder that. So it's a really neat game that I have in the past called Pandemic in Reverse, because it really plays very similar to how Pandemic plays, but you're trying to spread the growth of the church rather than curtail it. So that's my number 10, still from last year, Commissioned. My number 9 is a game that I just checked out. I have actually done a review of it just recently, and it's called Mask of Anubis. This is a really neat cooperative game, and I think it's one of the games on the list that's probably the most cooperative, one of them, because you really, really have to work together to get this puzzle put together. That's the best way I can use it. And it actually uses VR technology through your cell phone, your smartphone. So that's pretty cool too. It's kind of a cutting edge type feel to it, but basically it's where one person has to look through the VR goggles and describe where they are in a tomb. And the tomb is basically like a maze, and you're trying to get from the entrance of the maze to the actual tomb of the Pharaoh or of Anubis. And you have to do this by each person is going to be looking at a different part of that maze. And while the person has the VR goggles, they are describing what they're seeing, and everybody else is working together on the table, piecing together the map as they're being told to by the person looking through the goggles. It's a really neat game. Unfortunately, production value is really low on it. Hasn't been picked up by any larger publishers, but hopefully it will, so that we can see this kind of on a larger scale. But number 9 cooperative game is Mask of Anubis. Now, my number 8 is one of those games that has actually been on every single cooperative games list that we have done. The 4-year-old one, the 1-year-old one, and it's on this one as well, and that is Battlestar Galactica. Now, it has slipped since last year for me. Last year it was at number 2, I believe, and now it has slipped all the way to number 8. And the only reason for that is because it is a longer game and it's a little bit harder to get to the table, so I haven't played it as often as I would have probably liked to have played it. And the times that I've been offered to play, I wasn't able to sit down and play it. So it's just slipped simply because it's longer. But the gameplay is amazingly fun, and I love the cooperative nature that is there. Now, one of the things that you'll see in my list is that there is also a traitor aspect in many of the games. And I think those two go really hand in hand to make a very awesome game experience. So when you have people that are cooperatively working together, but one of them could be or probably is a traitor, that just really enriches the experience for me. So my number 8, Battlestar Galactica. So my number 7 is a game that we have been introduced to here at the Dice Tower, and we have played each and every module that has come out for it, and we are waiting with bated breath for the next module to show up. The last one took way too long to get here. That is Time Stories. We just played Endurance Expedition, or Expedition Endurance, and we had a great time. This is a true cooperative experience where everybody is working together toward a common goal. There's no traitor, there's no teams, there's none of that. It's just a fun cooperative experience where we're all working together, and that's what I really enjoyed about the game. It also has kind of a choose your own adventure type feel to it, but not really, but it gives me that feel at least, and I just really enjoy Time Stories a lot. That's why it's my number 7. Now my number 6 is a game that actually uses a time element, and I'm usually not on board with that, but because this is a cooperative game, the timed aspect is actually okay because you can help each other with figure out what you're going to do. I'm talking about London Dread from Gray Fox Games. I just had a great time playing this game, and it is a memorable experience. The theme is a little dark, but not overly so I'm okay with it. But the cooperative nature of it, piecing things together by certain times so that you can show up at the same place at the same time with the other characters that are in the game, just a great mechanic, and we really had a lot of fun with it. So my number 6 is London Dread. Now my number 5 is kind of a stand-in. It's currently my favorite version of this family of games, and it is Pandemic Iberia. Now last year I had Pandemic Legacy holding the spot for the Pandemic family of games, and I have put Iberia in there now because it is the most thematic of the ones that are out there right now. I don't care much for the Reign of Cthulhu. Legacy is basically you can play it a certain number of games up in the low teens, and then you're done with it basically until you forget all of the stuff, which really isn't ever going to happen, and then you might be able to play it again. Well, Pandemic Iberia though is on the same level thematically speaking as far as I'm concerned, but you can play it over and over and over again, and that's one of the reasons why I like it better than the original game, and it's why I kind of switched it out for Legacy, because of the replayability that it has. So I just really enjoy everything about Iberia. I like the historically thematic nature of it, just a lot of cool stuff that's there. So my number 5, Pandemic Iberia. Now my number 4 was actually my number 1 last year, and that is Dead of Winter. It has slipped some spaces basically for the same reason that Battlestar Galactica has slipped, and that is because it simply takes longer and it's a bit heavier to play than some of these other cooperatively natured games. So because of those two things, it's a little heavier and it takes longer to play, it has slipped a few spots, but I still really enjoy Dead of Winter. It is one of my, top 5 games that are cooperative in nature, so there's not too much more I can say about it. I love the Crossroads deck that comes in the game, where when you go from one place to the next, there's a possibility for you to be stopped and you have to come into this encounter with whatever it might be, whether it's a group of zombies or a guy that's wandering through town or what have you. It's just a really cool experience, and again, this has that traitor aspect to the game as well, which really, in my opinion, enriches the experience. On top of that, you have these different goals. Everybody's cooperatively working towards the main goal, but everybody has their own personal goals that you're trying to work for as well. So it enters in a little bit of a variable player power issue there. Really, I love the game. It just takes a little bit too long to play for many circumstances, so it has slipped a little bit. But still, my number 4, Dead of Winter. Now, my number 3 is a brand new comer because I was just introduced to this last year, and if I'm not mistaken, it was after we made the last top 10 cooperative games list. This one is called V Commandos from Triton Noir. I've recently done 3 reviews, one on the base game and one each on each of the 2 expansions that are available right now. And what I like about this is that, first of all, it is an absolute pure cooperative game. The bad guys aren't played by anybody. They are simply programmed throughout with different elements within the game. So this is a tried and true cooperative game. And another thing that I liked about it, it has a World War II theme on it, but you're not going in just shooting everything else, shooting everything up. You are needfully sneaking around, trying to stay hidden, trying to stay quiet so that you can accomplish that mission and get out and move on to the next part of the mission. So I just really enjoy this game a lot. It has risen to the top of my list. I mean, this is top 3 as far as cooperative games are concerned. So that is V Commandos from Triton Noir. Check it out if you can. My number 2 is the last of the 3 that were on this list that were on every single list that we've done, and that is Shadows over Camelot. This is a classic cooperative game as far as I'm concerned. We were just able to play it in our marathon, had a great time doing it, made a couple of mistakes. Sorry, Derek. But we still had a good time trying to figure out. We won as loyal knights. Spoiler if you haven't watched the marathon yet, but you should have. So, shame on you. But anyway, I just love this game. It takes a very loosely themed game, but one that you can kind of grab a hold of. We always crack Monty Python jokes, Quest for the Holy Grail jokes. So it's really fun. We can really get into it. We've had a lot of fun playing this game. So it naturally resides at number 2, Shadows over Camelot. And my number 1 is also a newcomer. It was not yet available when we made our last list, I believe, and that is Zombicide Black Plague. Again, a truly cooperative game where each of the players plays a survivor in a post-apocalyptic medieval world, and you're just trying to, depending on the scenario, accomplish certain goals without being eaten alive by the zombie horde that is coming through all of these different portals throughout town. I really enjoy this game. This is another one we were able to play in the marathon, and we had a great time playing it. We actually didn't finish because we kind of saw the writing on the wall. We weren't really getting forward, and it would have taken a little bit too long for the marathon. Had we not been recording live, we probably would have finished it because we were just having a great time playing this game. A dice chucker. You can really get into the role of your character. Variable player powers as well. So there's just so many good things about this game, but it is definitely a cooperative game. My number 1 cooperative game of all time right now, that is Zombicide Black Plague. So I hope you have enjoyed this list. Let me know in the comments where you agree or where you disagree. It's okay for you to be wrong. I don't mind that at all. But as always, we'll see you guys on the flip side. And thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.